Alright guys, so now we're in the second part of this test. We're no longer looking for discrete clauses. We are now classifying sentences by type. And there are different types of sentences. The tadpoles in the pond behind my house eventually grew legs and climbed out of the water. So when you look at a sentence like this, you have to play a game of reducing the number of options. The first thing you should try to reduce is compound sentence and compound complex sentence. You just have to reduce the idea of whether or not this sentence is compound. Now there is a rule that says that all compound sentences have to either have a comma or a semicolon. And not only do compound sentences have to have a comma, but they have to have a comma followed by a coordinating conjunction. The coordinating conjunctions form an acronym, and it's fan boys, and that stands for and, nor, but, or, yet, so. So all compound sentences have to have a comma followed by one of these words, or they have to have a semicolon. So when we look at this sentence, we have to ask ourselves, do we see a comma, fanboys, or do we see a semicolon? No. There's no comma at all in the sentence, let alone a fanboys next to one, and there is no semicolon. So it is not B, and it's not D. So either it's simple or it's complex. To find out if it is simple or complex, we have to see if it has a subordinate conjunction. So what we're looking for is an adverb clause, a noun clause, or an adjective clause. So let's read this. What we're looking for are verbs here. We're looking for multiple verbs because a subordinate clause will have a subject and a verb. So the tadpoles, so far no verb, in the pond, behind my house, no verb, eventually grew. So here's our first verb, is grew. The subject of this verb, the thing that grew legs in this case, are the tadpoles. So we have one subject-verb relationship. Let's keep going. They eventually grew legs and climbed, here's another verb, out of the water. Here we have two verbs, but the subject of grew legs and climbed out is the same, the tadpoles. We may have two verbs, but we only have one subject-verb relationship. Here's one subject and two verbs. So this is not complex, because in order to be complex, there would have to be an adverb, adjective, or noun clause that had its own independent subject-verb relationship. So this is not complex. It's simple because there's only one subject-verb relationship. There are two verbs, but their relationship is the same, one subject for both of these verbs. Okay, so hopefully this one will take less time. So first of all, we want to try to eliminate compound and compound complex. We're looking for comma fanboys, or we're looking for a semicolon. So here we go. The architect designed the hotel by using a computer-aided design, comma, or CAD program, semicolon. So here we have the semicolon. We know that it is at least compound or compound complex. That means we've eliminated simple sentence and complex sentence because we have a semicolon. She then made a cardboard model of the building for her client. If either of these two independent clauses, before and after the semicolon, have two subject-verb relationships in them, then it will be compound complex. If, however, we can only find one subject-verb relationship in each of the independent clauses, it'll be just compound. The architect, there's our subject. Designed, there's our verb. The hotel, by using a computer-aided design or CAD program. Now you might think that this is a different subject-verb relationship, this word using. This is actually a very complicated sentence because using a computer-aided design or CAD program does not have a subject here. This is actually an ing verb. And what we learned last week when we looked at phrases is ing verbs are called verbals, which means they're not actually verbs. This is called a gerund. This is a gerund phrase, not a clause, because this is the object of the preposition by. This is an ing verb used as the object of the preposition by. So this is not a subordinate clause at all. You cannot count this as one. So far, so good. She then made, here's our second verb, and it goes with the word she. She then made a cardboard model of the building for her client. So this is just a compound sentence. It is not also complex because we have one subject-verb relationship and we have no other subject-verb relationships in this sentence. There's no adjective, adverb, or noun clause anywhere in here before the semicolon. After the semicolon, we have another independent clause that doesn't have any other type of subordinate clause in it. So thus, it is just simply compound. All right, so in sentence 9, we'll go through our process. We're going to try to eliminate compound or compound complex. So we're looking for comma fanboys or semicolon. Like hedgehogs, comma, but that's not a fanboys, are like hedgehogs, porcupine fish are covered with sharp spines that discourage predators. All right, so there is no comma fanboy in this sentence. There is no semicolon. We have eliminated compound and compound complex sentences. So it's simple or it's complex. What we're looking for is now subject-verb relationships. We're looking for an independent clause and we're looking for perhaps an adjective, adverb, or noun clause. All right. Like hedgehogs, this is a prepositional phrase. We can ignore it. Porcupine fish, there's our subject. Are, there's our verb. Covered with sharp spines. This right here is a participle phrase. So we can ignore it. It is not a subordinate clause. But here we go. That discourage predators. The word that is something that should ring a bell for you because it is a relative pronoun. And relative pronouns tend to begin what are called adjective clauses. And that's exactly what we have here. That discourage predators, we have a subject, that, and a verb, discourage predators. This has a separate subject-verb relationship to porcupine fish are. So that discourage predators is a word that describes the spines actually here, the object of the preposition with. So this tells us about those spines. So this is an adjective clause. The upshot is that it is not simple because we have two subject-verb relationships, and we've eliminated the idea that it's compound, so it must be complex. Okay, so in this sentence, we've already eliminated that it is simple or complex because it has a semicolon, which means it has to be either compound or compound complex. This is a compound complex sentence, so it is not this at all. We know that because it has a subject and a verb here. Many folk tales explain natural phenomena, semicolon, that makes it compound. For example, a story, there's a subject, might describe, there's a verb, how, and then we have snakes, subject, became, verb. So in this second half of the sentence, after the semicolon, we have a complex sentence. We have two subject-verb relationships. We have story and describe, and snakes became. And these are independent subject-verb relationships that have nothing to do with each other than this is a direct object for the word describe. How snakes became poisonous is a noun clause that tells us what receives the description. So this is a compound complex sentence. The answer is D. Alright guys, thanks for sticking with us for this video. Our objective was to identify subordinate and independent clauses. If you are having significant trouble following this video, you might want to check out some of the other videos where I talk one by one about each type of clause. Good luck on the test.